The following is an official Geeks and Company presentation.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Geeks and Company. My name's JS, and today I want to talk about the Dune movie. Now, this is the second take this week. Unfortunately, we had to re-record our podcasts. I'm also re-recording this episode. Now, I want to first start off with saying that even though I was a fan of the original Dune movie back in the 80s, 84 actually, I've never read the books. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm a Dune expert. I know quite a bit about the background of Dune. Over the years, I've had a lot of people that were very invested in the world of Dune that have, told me different things. Again, take everything with a grain of salt, or everything that I say with a grain of salt. I am no expert on Dune. With that said, I recorded this little review of the movie, and I was going to upload it yesterday. And then a release came yesterday saying that Dune Part 2 was actually greenlit. And that kind of changed my review a little bit, and I figured, you know what, maybe I should re-record this. First of all, that was a big gripe that I had with the Dune movie as of right now, is that, well, you were only getting half of a movie. You're only getting half the story. And there was no Part 2 greenlit. So it was one of those things where you're watching the movie, and then the movie just ends. Halfway through the movie, it feels like it just ends. Again, we didn't know if Part 2 was going to get released. We didn't know if it was going to get greenlit. Now it's official. So that puts me at ease a little bit because, again, the Dune story is a great story. It is a lot of story to pack into one movie, and I agree with that. It made the original Dune seem very, well, maybe not very, but a little bit disjointed. It was hard to follow. If you didn't already know what was going on, some facts were a little bit weird. Splitting this into two really gives the Dune team a chance to expand on maybe not the lore, but the world of Dune. Expand on the houses and who they are and how the whole thing functions, and House Atreides, House Harkonnen, and the Emperor, and you go through this movie so quickly in the first part that you don't really get a chance to understand what this is all about. Now, the movie itself, when I started seeing trailers at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit concerned. Visually, it looked amazing, but I felt like they were banking their movie on a long list of very well-known actors. Timothy Chalamet as Paul, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Jason Momoa, Oscar Isaac, Stellan Skarsgård, David Bautista, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin. There is a ton of big-name actors in this movie. Right off the bat, that was a little bit of a concern to me. I was getting the impression that instead of giving us a great movie, they were going to bank on these big-name actors to draw people in to see the movie. Then I actually was able to get my hand on a copy of the movie, and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be straight up here. I don't know the legality of the version of the copy that I got, but my first reaction was to actually go just check it out to see what the quality was before I sat down and watched the thing. I wanted to make sure this was an actual HD copy and that I was going to get a proper representation of the movie. First thing I knew, I was still sitting there and the movie was ending, and I was like, what's going on? Why is this movie already ending? We're only halfway through the story. But the first part on its own, I can't lie, was amazing. The grandeur of the world of Dune was just taken to another level. The sceneries, the spaceships, the armies, everything was just to another level. Visually, Denis Villeneuve's Dune is a masterpiece. It's gorgeous. The set designs are amazing. Like I said, the ship designs are amazing. The costumes are amazing. There's nothing that I didn't like visually about the movie. Now, my understanding of this movie is that it is not a remake of the original Dune. It is, in fact, a new adaptation of the book. Again, not reading the book, I can't comment on that fact. All I know is that there were a lot of scenes that felt like they were taken right out of the original movie. The scene where Paul has to put his hand in the box. The scene where Paul and his mom are, they crash on Dune in their chopper and they have to run away because there's a worm coming. Et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of these scenes that look like they were taken right from the first movie, which I'm assuming is because those scenes in the first movie were taken right out of the book. Either way, I found myself watching a movie that, although I already knew the story, was still fresh. As weird as that's going to sound, I knew where the whole story was heading, but it still felt like a fresh movie to me. They were really able to expand, like I said earlier, on House Atreides, what they're going through, Paul himself, what his life path is leading to. Him basically telling his dad, "Look, I don't want to become Duke. Like, I want to do my own thing." And then seeing his progression into a little bit more of a mature character. Now, that's where my first issue was, or my main issue was, is that Dune is a little bit of a coming of age story for Paul. He really starts as a young adult, basically a kid, and not wanting to become, Duke of House Atreides, making his way through becoming Muad'Dib, the leader of the Fremen. We don't actually see that in this movie. Actually, the movie ends before he even becomes Muad'Dib. So, again, if you don't know the world of Dune, if you've never seen the original movie, and not knowing that there's a part 2 to this, if you just come in here watching this movie, you're going to be very confused, and you're going to come out of this wondering what you just watched. Again, you have a beginning of a story, half of the middle of the story, with no real end to the story. Now, Dune 2 was officially announced yesterday, or Dune Part 2, I should say, was officially announced yesterday. It is set for a October 2023 release, so we're still essentially 2 years away from that release, if it even makes that date, which, is, I mean, it's neither here nor there. I wish they would have filmed these back to back. I wish Warner Brothers would have just said, fine, if we're going to make a movie, either make a movie, or if you're going to split it in 2 parts, at the very least, film them back to back. Or let people know, yes, it's already been greenlit, it's coming. I mean, let's be honest. Dune Part 1's been in production for years. It was then, well, I say it was then. I don't know how much the pandemic had an impact on the production of the movie, but the movie's essentially been done for a while now. It was supposed to be released last year. Because of the pandemic, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for the movie to be released. Now that it's finally released, you watch the movie and you realize, well, hang on a second. I'm only really getting half of the story here, and there's no plans as of yet for the rest of the story to come. Now there is. And that really makes it a lot easier for me to digest, because at least now I know that we'll get to see the rest of the story, even though I wish that I could have watched them back to back, because I totally would have watched them back to back. It's an amazing story. I'm not sure how much more I want to say about the movie, the production, all that stuff, because frankly, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. If you haven't already seen the original Dune, I don't want to spoil big parts of the story. If you have seen the original Dune, but you still haven't seen this one, again, there's a lot more going on in this one, where we're basically filling a 2-and-a-bit-hour movie with just half of the story. But cast, I do want to talk about the cast quickly, because frankly, the cast was amazing. I want to start with Paul. Paul in this movie is played by Timothée Chalamet. And, as much as I loved Kyle MacLachlan in the first movie as Paul, I feel like Chalamet kind of fits the role better. He's younger, or at least he looks younger than MacLachlan looked in the original Dune. It makes it feel a bit more true to the character of, hey, this is who I am. I don't want to become what everybody wants me to become. I want to have my own path. Versus, Kyle MacLachlan was a little bit colder, a little bit older. It felt like it wasn't as much a coming of age story in his case, where with Paul, even though we only get half the movie, you already see him go through a very good progression. Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. I mean, even though Duncan Idaho doesn't have a huge part in this, he didn't really have a huge part in the first movie either. He was amazing. Uh, I love Jason Momoa. I don't care what people say. I started watching Jason Momoa on Stargate Atlantis. That was where I first discovered him. And I don't want to say I've followed him throughout his career, but I've seen a lot of the stuff that he's done since. And everything that he seems to put his mind to, he's great in. So kudos for Jason Momoa in this movie. Great casting. Oscar Isaacs as Duke Leto Atreides. Again, another casting that I don't know if they could have picked anybody else. I don't know that they could have picked anybody better than Oscar Isaacs to play the role. He was amazing in the role, even though, again, his role is almost more of a supporting role. Obviously, anybody that knows the Dune story knows the fate of Leto Atreides. So, again, I don't want to say too much of where that's heading for part 2, but I think he was still a good casting, even though it was a bit of a supporting role. Breakout performance for me was Stellan Skarsgård. Now, Stellan plays Vladimir Harkonnen, and Kenneth McMillan in the first one, it was almost comical how they portrayed him in the original movie. The way he floated around and the way his suit looked, and obviously this was a very 80s movie. Special effects obviously were nowhere what they are today, but he didn't feel threatening in the first movie, or in the original movie. Actually, I need to stop saying the first movie. It's in the original movie. Kenneth McMillan, or I should say Vladimir, did not feel threatening. It was almost more of a comical type role. I mean, with Sting as one of his main bad guys, I mean, like I said, that was almost the comic relief of the movie. In this new Dune movie, though, Stellan Skarsgård, I mean, yeah, he gives you chills. I don't even know how else to say it. It's chills down your spine almost every time he's on screen. We don't get to see him a lot in part 1. I'm assuming we're going to see a little bit more of him in part 2. But for me, even though he had a very, very small role in part 1, he was amazing. He really redeemed that character for me. He is a true bad guy. I friggin' loved it. Now, there's a lot of other actors. Like I said, there's Josh Brolin as Gurney. Dave Bautista plays the henchman in this new movie. Who else I didn't mention? Javier Bardem. Again, a very, very small role in this first movie. I'm assuming his part will be a lot bigger in the second one, being that he plays a Fremen. We only really just touch on the Fremens in this first movie. We don't really get to see a lot of Paul becoming one of them, but also teaching them and training them and mobilizing them and really becoming a force to be reckoned with, and eventually retake Dune, or retake Arrakis, I should say. We don't see any of that. I'm assuming we're going to see all that in the second movie, so I'm sure Javier will have a better or bigger role, I should say, in the second movie. But overall, the cast was amazing. I had zero issue with the cast. Again, at first, that was my big concern. I didn't want this to just be a superstar-filled movie that sucked. Let me tell you what, that's not what it was at all. Actually, Rebecca Ferguson as Dame Jessica, she played the role very well as well. She reminded me a lot of the original actress. I forget what her name is, Francesca Annis. She had a lot of the same mannerisms, a lot of the same, and I guess it's probably a trait of the character, but again, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to spoil anything. There are certain scenes in the movie where I'm thinking, wow, like this just throws me back to when I was a kid watching the original Dune, but again, still keeping it fresh. Again, it's hard to do a proper review of this movie without actually spoiling anything, but I really don't want to spoil it for anybody because it really is a great movie. I'm just really, really, really glad that Warner Brothers has finally announced that they're greenlighting part 2, because that was eating up at me. When I filmed this the first time, Maybe I went off on this fact too much, but that was really, really bothering me that you would make basically half a movie without knowing if you're going to get the rest of the story. And you feel a little bit ripped off almost. And it's like, well, why did I just spend all this time watching like 2 hours and 35 minutes watching this movie that, you never get the end. You never get the end of the story. You're only halfway through it, and then that's it. If Dune Part 2 never gets greenlit, what does that mean for Dune Part 1? I mean, it's an incomplete story. So that was my big issue. I'm very, very happy that Part 2 has been greenlit. I cannot wait to see Part 2. But I really want to know what everybody else thought. Again, I realize, it's not a full movie, but, Denis Villeneuve is a great director as far as I'm concerned. He's done some great, great movies, especially visually. I mean, Denis Villeneuve has a real eye for these big epics like nobody else. But please take a second and go down below, click the like and subscribe button. It really helps us out. Any interaction with the channel, it helps out tremendously, being a small channel like mine. But take a minute and comment below. What did you think of Dune Part 1? Are you excited for Dune Part 2? What did you think of the casts? Is there anything different that you would want to see? Let me know below. But that'll be it for me today, everybody. Thanks for watching. Stay geeky. We'll see you next time.